Oh, well, all right. I have to work in the morning, and it's 4 in the morning here. But I told my buddy Troll here we had to do this. Hey guys, it's Merlin, obviously, and my buddies at Film Fanatics kept saying to me, "Okay, Joe, you know, you're Merlin. You're funny. Your favorite movie of all time is Oldboy. So we want you to say what you think of the American remake."
We literally just got done watching it.
So we just got done watching it. All right. I'm gonna start with the positive. Okay.
Start with what you
no.
think of. Tell them about your relationship with the original movie.
All right. Well, okay. My relationship with the old movie is basically this. I saw it in high school, and a friend of mine recommended it to me. He said, "Joe, I've got a feeling you're really gonna like this movie." And I'm like, "Okay, sure." And you know, to this day, that buddy of mine was right. And I always, whenever I saw him, I was like, you knew it. And this guy knew me really well. And this movie, when I saw it, was like it's going to sound weird, it was like a spiritual experience because the music, the cinematography, the acting, the plot, like the characters, I just loved everything about this movie. It's like probably one of the best psychological thrillers ever made.
Yeah, the original Oldboy is
a great
one
movie.
of the best revenge movies. It's not the best revenge movie. It's
one of the best comic book movies ever made. It's actually based on a manga, if a lot of people don't know that. But it's a really, really good movie. It's excellent. And so I really didn't want to watch this one. I just was like, no matter what, even if it was good, I'd be biased. But I just said, you know what, we're going to watch this. And so we watched it. And I'm going to just, we don't have a lot of battery power, so I'm just going to kind of roll through this. And I'm going to let Troll bash it, because I think he'll be a little more fun about it. But the positive thing I can say about this movie is that the cinematography was pretty good, for the most part. Josh Brolin was trying to act, and that's about it. I'm sorry. This movie, the first act was, we established Josh Brolin's character is Dal-su.
He's
basically
one of the worst fucking protagonists I've seen.
Like in the original film, he's kind of a buffoon. He's not the most likable.
In this one, he's a complete drunken asshole.
But
he offends and pisses off everyone he runs into. He's a horrible human being.
He's not a good person, and I admit that's what they're going for. But he's probably one of the most unlikable protagonists ever. And I have to say, on that note, it basically follows the same plot as the original.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. But the point is this: the big difference for me.
Well, okay, they throw him in the room. The room's different. Like they make it look more like a hotel room. They have this weird
shifting
creep. Yeah, and then this weird creep. They have this shifting fake window day and night. This really fucking weird and creepy thing of like a black usher on the wall.
It's Spike Lee, so there's a lot of random racial metaphors
shit,
and stuff. It doesn't fit at all, but that's neither here nor there. It's just a stylistic thing for him. Whatever.
Most of the plot's fairly similar. Like, they do a really shitty job editing the movie.
Oh my god! Like they'll jump from one scene to the next. That's my biggest problem with this movie. Seriously, like
they don't do the time passing.
Yeah, like in the original film, you get a good sense of time passing. You sense that there's years he's stuck in the room, just plotting his revenge, building that anger. And then between each scene, when they meet different characters, they establish dialogue. They get to know what motivates them. They get to have connection. In this one, it's just like, oh, hey, person, I haven't seen you in 20 years. Sup? Literally. Like,
yeah, they just jump around. They jump. They don't do the time very well.
Pacing's terrible.
Pacing. The main what you knew the actress's name in this one?
Oh, Elizabeth Olsen.
Elizabeth Olsen. She's a sexy lamp. She's there to be hot.
It's not a great performance, yeah.
It's not so much her performance.
She has no character.
She just is given very little to do. She's a nurse in this one, which is the reason why that she has a caring thing for him. But the plot's exactly the same except worse. Like in the original, spoilers if you haven't seen the original. If you haven't seen the original, just stop watching this. Go watch the original.
Yeah.
But in the original, basically the reason why the guy does this to him, puts him in a room for 20 years, is as payback because the dude fell in love with and had a real loving, incestuous relationship with his sister.
Yep.
And in the original movie, the protagonist saw them having sex, didn't realize they were brother and sister, and just mentioned it to someone. And that inadvertently ended up destroying their life, so he decided to destroy this guy's life.
Yes.
In this one, it was his sister was fucking his father, and he saw it and bled about town, and they ran, even though he didn't tell them it was her father. And then the father, who was fucking both the daughter and the brother.
The whole family had this weird incestuous relationship thing.
Went around and murdered his family with a shotgun.
And so the son blames Josh Brolin for this happening.
Yeah.
Even though really, quite blatantly, his father was a terrible person.
And he set up, it's the same thing where he sets up, they do a really clever misdirection.
Yes.
Where they're showing him like these film, like on TV, these...
like his daughter being interviewed about the murder they just framed for.
But it wasn't really his daughter, it was an actress that he did.
If you haven't seen the movie before, that was a decent twist.
Where it wasn't really his daughter, it was his actress. That way it was easier to trick him into sleeping with his daughter, which is part of the revenge. Like 20 years later, he tricks him into sleeping, having incest with his own daughter.
Yes.
Which, okay. The ending. Because basically everything happens, dude shoots himself in the head. Even though Josh Brolin doesn't cut off his own tongue in this one.
He's got no leverage, though. I mean, the villain was a lot more unbelievable, cartoony. His motivations made a lot less sense, which is a big flaw for the movie.
He was oddly enough less
sympathetic, which is weird.
It's weird because they're both evil, but the original one is also...
He was in love. He was deeply connected with the woman who killed herself, so you can understand his vengeance.
And this one, it was about him trying to
restore his father's family.
No, showing him how awesome having sex with your kids is. To show him like how
it was
terrible the father.
Basically, it was like saying my lifestyle of incest is okay, so I'm going to basically show you this and prove to you that it's wrong. And that's how he destroys him, by proving his philosophy right or wrong. It's just.
But the worst part,
the ending.
Okay, the original had kind of a weird ending.
Yeah.
Like he finds out that the waitress woman, as long as his
hypnotized
daughter,
him.
So he tries to get himself hypnotized in order to forget the fact that he knows that she's his daughter, so he can still be with her and be happy.
It's very weird, but...
And they kind of imply that he still remembers, and they kind of leave it on that.
I would argue it's open to interpretation, but, you know...
And they kind of leave it on that. This one...
No.
He goes back to the guys who imprisoned him for 20 years. He pays them this money in diamonds that the evil dude gave him.
On top of everything else, which is ridiculous.
To put him back in the room for the rest of his life.
To punish himself.
That's how this fucking movie ends.
And I will say this much. Not only is that a stupid ending, I didn't like the character that much in this movie, but he did grow. By the end, I'm like, this character's better than that. He would not do this. He'd find some way around it. He'd go away. He'd do something with his life.
Even if he committed suicide, I could believe that.
Out of guilt.
This is the dumbest thing in this movie.
It was trying to basically say in this one it was the guy's revenge, like proving he was wrong to make him punish himself. But he should not have done that because the motivation was stupid.
The motivation was far worse than the original. Like, and if you're waiting to see Josh Brolin cut his tongue out, no, he doesn't do that.
No.
But yeah, we were okay. The first part of this movie is really rough. The first part of this movie is not that good. But basically, as soon as he comes out of the
once he gets out, it actually starts to pick up, and it gets okay.
It gets okay. Like it's not like it's better than we were thought. And then the ending happens. The ending is the worst fucking ending I could possibly come up with this story.
I mean, I get what they were trying to do, but because the motivations and the characterizations didn't work at all, it just doesn't work at all. It doesn't make any sense.
I feel like that's the only fault we're really talking about, just because it was the last thing we saw. It was so fucking bad.
No, but even little things like the torture scenes were dumbed down.
Yeah, okay, there's a famous scene where he finds the guy who had imprisoned him, and he was slowly ripping out the guy's teeth.
He slits little pieces of
his neck. He just slits little pieces of his neck and pours salt in it over and over again.
And that was one problem. I think it was because of the pacing and just the editing, but a lot of these scenes seemed almost comedic.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't take them that seriously.
And there was a scene which I thought they were going to go another direction. And here's the thing. If they had gone this direction, I would have been really interested in. Because there's no way they were going to top the original movie. Mm-hmm. So if they tried to take it to their own story, I thought it would have been better. But there's a point where this dude is actually... Because the room is set up differently in this one, where there's a bathroom connected to it that there isn't, like, they don't watch him on for some reason.
Yeah.
And while he's in there, he was slowly taking apart the tiles in the bathroom.
He was pulling a Shawshank Redemption
to make an escape room. He actually gets out. And kicks his way outside. Then he goes back in to get the letters that he's been writing for his daughter and puts on the thing.
That's one of the most frustrating scenes.
And then he turns around and starts to go back in. Then he stops. He stops and turns around, because he notices that his daughter is on the video.
They play the daughter.
But then they start putting gassing the room. And the gas is very visible. You won't fucking notice.
Yeah, she looks at the gas, looks back. You think he's going to leave, but that she...
And then he just stays there and lets it happen and lets them take him down like this. Where he could have just left. I know why they did, because otherwise they'd have no plot. No, but they wouldn't be able to use the original plot.
If they want to make it a closer remake, they got to follow the same plot. But I thought that was awesome.
Then don't put that in the fucking movie, because...
It was a tease.
Yeah, at that point I'm like, just kick your way out. Like, I think the movie would have been better if they would have like diverted at that point. He kicks his way out.
He did his own investigation independent of the guy's plans.
Yeah. Just kick your way out, take your letters with you, and go search for this guy. I thought that would have been better, because they tried to just rehash the original, and they failed. And in a way, the thing that was weird, the one thing that I noticed about this movie, if you notice this, Troll, is that they were trying to amp things up. Like, there was a scene in the they add rape in the house. Shit.
They added rape randomly in there, even more so.
I believe in the original, his wife was just murdered. In this one, she was raped and murdered. And they show the original guy actually doing it. But he filmed himself doing it. It's little things, too. Like, in the room, there's a scene where he makes friends with these little mice that he finds. What they do to him, instead of... they gas... Yeah, and the mice, like, has babies, and he's feeding it, like, his cereal and shit. They take it out, they gas him, right? And they serve him the mice. Like this really as like a dish. Meal. It is the most disturbing thing. I'm like, wow, these guys are so over the top and so evil, far worse than the original. But it comes off as comedic because it just the motivation makes no sense. It's stupid. It's just. At first, I think when we were watching, I mentioned to you that like, well, so far it's the best remake I've seen in a while. Then the ending just pretty much the whole like last 20 minutes. Was just like, as this guy... Basically stopped watching after he kills, like, his bodyguard, who was a hot chick in this one, instead of, like, the big beefy motherfucker who was in the original. Which also makes less sense. Because this motherfucker can take down, like, 30 fucking people by himself. And he just stabs him in the back and takes down, like, another 10. Except when the plot requires him not Except for the plot requires... Because then later on, just two guys could just hold him down. I'm like, this motherfucker just annihilated, 30 thugs. 30 dudes. With a knife stabbed in his back for the second half of it. No, that was actually afterwards, because he was in the elevator with, like, a bunch more of them, too. Yeah. With the knife in his back, so... And by the way... And then, like, this random chick can just, like, outdo him, like, no, he does not go down that easily. Well, Troll didn't like my theory that it was Lady Shiva. She's not Lady Shiva. Lady Shiva wouldn't go down the way she goes down in this movie. Alright, fair enough. That was okay, I'm going to spoil a good scene in this movie for you. Don't watch the fucking movie. There's a scene where he's going after the rich guy, right? And unlike the original, rich guy doesn't have a gun until the very end he pulls out. But... is it dead now? It's dying, quick. Alright, don't watch this fucking movie. Fuck the good scene I was going to say. If you haven't seen the original Oldboy, see that. It's a far better film. Yeah, I didn't like this one, guys. Had a few good scenes here and there, but really overall, not good. Not good at all. Seriously, even as his own movie, just not good. Lame. Mediocre at best. Even without bias, it's just a terrible movie. It was mediocre, then it was shit. The ending was the beginning was rough, and the ending was horrible. Middle was passable. God, it was... You know what? I think Josh Brolin could have done something with this. No, it could have potentially been a good movie, but I don't know what wrong. It wasn't. Let's say goodbye before I completely runs up. This is Troll, this is Merlin. See you. Adios, everybody, and please don't watch Oldboy. Ever. Watch the bats. Don't watch the new Oldboy. Watch the old Oldboy. Vengeance.